Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Sarah, here to do some yoga. And this practice is in blending together the Come Follow Me book, which is going week by week through the Book of Mormon. And we are starting or focusing this week on Alma, chapters 23 through 29. And if you're following along with the weeks, that's the week of June 29th. So I'm so excited about this one because of chapter 26, and that's actually where I'm focusing completely with this practice today. I'm really excited about it. So chapter 26 is Ammon, and it's like a beautiful lesson on the power of intentional reflection. Ammon clearly takes some time to slow down here, focuses on things that he's grateful for, shares this abundant perspective, and then also shares many times where his progression has really weathered through storms and difficult times and seasons, and then coming through it with incredible resilience and love, a greater understanding and of mercy, and a greater understanding of God, and it's Ammon's just unique wisdom that he just slows down enough to share. So one thing I love about this chapter is not only seeing and learning from his perspective, but then saying, well, how does that apply and what does that look like to me, to us, and as a family unit in everyday life. So I have a couple helpers with me today that are going to kind of go through this, because this is a beautiful yoga practice that can be done individually or brought together as a family, and can just be a great tool for offering a slowdown, for creating space, and for kind of getting out of the weeds. Sometimes we're in those weeds of everyday life and we're just going through the next thing. And these 3 tools that I'm going to talk about today are great ways to pull out of the weeds in small and simple ways. So we're going to talk about 3 ways to create space for intentional reflection. And all of this is built around 2 phrases in chapter 26. The first one is in verse 12, where Ammon says, "For in his strength I can do all things." And that's not Ammon stating his own strength. He's referring to Christ. And one of the beautiful things that he reflects on with Christ is the truthfulness that Christ meets us where we're at and then lifts us from there. And that's the strength that Ammon talks about and reflects on in his own life. The second one is in verse 37, where Ammon states, "God is mindful of every people." Not just some people, not just certain times and seasons, but every people. And that knows no boundaries, ages, or stages. That's completely inclusive, which is a beautiful lesson to meditate on and think about. So if I were to break it down to 2 words, it would actually be strong and mindful. And those 2 words are beautiful tools of intention and clarity and focus for kind of pulling again out of those weeds. All right, so let's get into the yoga side of things. And we're gonna start with the first tool. So there's 3 today, but the first tool for creating space for intention is breathing. And we're gonna do this all together. It's a retention breath, and it's simple. You can do it seated like we're doing right now, or it could be in a car or in a transition or when we're feeling stressed, right? But the retention breath is focused, today we're focusing on the number 4. But we'll inhale for 4, hold the breath for 4, exhale for 4, and then hold that breath for 4. So let's just try a few rounds and feel that breath bringing us into the present space. So we're inhaling for 4, 3, 2, 1, holding the breath for 3, 2, 1, exhaling for 3, 2, 1, and then holding 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Inhaling 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it, 3, 2, 1. One more time. Inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold the breath, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. And hold, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that breath, that retention breath, is a grounding. It's centering, and it kind of gets us into our roots. And something that's really nice as we're working through that breath is just to come back to the present moment. What do we see? What do we feel? What do we hear? And reconnect with that strength within us. Okay, the second yoga tool today is, what is it? It's legs on the wall. Legs on the wall. Okay, so legs on the wall can be done. It's a very inclusive pose. It can be done pretty much as long as you've got a wall or even a chair. The only people that might want to steer clear from this is those with glaucoma. But beyond that, it's a beautiful gift of slowing down and stepping into something restorative that will leave us feeling renewed and refreshed. So legs on the wall is pretty simple. These guys are going to demonstrate, and I'll talk because it's really hard to talk while my back is on the ground trying to demonstrate at the same time. So we just want to scoot our side body as close as we can to the wall. And I have a fun little helper here that's even able to do this with 2 broken arms. So it can be done. All right, so we scoot ourselves close to that side wall, and then we're just gonna lay those backs down onto the ground and let the legs come up to the wall. Now, depending on our flexibility and what that feels like for us, some of us will notice that we need more distance between our body and the wall. That's completely fine. And sometimes, go ahead and bend your knees. Sometimes, like a big bend. Sometimes we don't have that leg flexibility, so we need to bend our legs a lot. And that's completely fine, but we're just gonna take that space as it works for our body. The goal here is to get into a position that feels restful for your body, and that doesn't matter anything much more than that. But the basic legs on the wall is just looking to create legs up and the body down. So the secret with this restorative practice is in the space and the time that it creates. And it might be a really beautiful tool to actually do with scripture study, either alone or as a family. And everybody or one person pops up into legs on the wall. And then we spend time in this space meditating. And we'll walk through this right now, as I hope that you're finding a wall or you're by a wall right now. I'll walk through kind of a shortened version of what that could look like when you're in this space. But we come into this legs on the wall space, and we're going to relax those hands to either side, palms lifting up towards the sky as it feels comfortable. And even further opening practice can bring the arms out like cactus arms. And we bend those elbows, and we just stay in that space, relaxing those shoulders away from the ears. And as we stay in this stillness, closing the eyes and just feeling the rhythm and flow of the breath, we can place our intention on the words strong, mindful, or maybe the phrases, in His strength, I can do all things, or the phrase, God is mindful of us. And what that means is spending a little time seeing which one of those words or phrases speaks to you here and now today. I'm going to bet that there's probably one that awakens a softening in the heart space. And so just choose the one that first comes to mind. There's no right or wrong. And then give yourself some moments to expand on that. What does that word or phrase look like in your life? How has it been brought about in the past to bring you to exactly where you are today? And sometimes this reflection invites looking for those times that might have been difficult, might have been moments of fear, uncertainty, sadness, depression, anxiety, sorrow, grief. And in those times, sometimes it can be helpful as we're trying to reflect back to visualize something that feels tangible to us. And one visualization that can be beautiful is that of a tree. And specifically, a palm tree. Palm trees are incredibly resilient, and they're made for surviving and thriving in significant storms. When we lived in Florida, it was amazing to watch these trees just bend and lift right back to their position. But a palm tree has the ability to bend until the top touches the ground. It can stay bent for 4 to 5 hours. And biologists have actually studied these trees, especially the ones that just seem to flip back and forth. They seem like they would snap in a hurricane. But they found that the roots of that tree are actually strengthened during these strong hurricane force winds. Which reminds me always of this beautiful quote that good timber does not grow with ease. The stronger the wind, the stronger the tree. So as we're looking back, maybe there's moments where these winds have come really strong into our lives. We've just felt ourselves blowing, teetering. And to an outside perspective, and maybe even our own, we're thinking that that snapping point, that breaking point is going to happen. But then as we walk into these inclusive phrases of His strength and His mindfulness, that's where our own roots are strengthened with Christ. That's where we can see, feel, and know the grounding and centering capacity that Christ offers to each of us and to all of us. Staying in legs on the wall can be incredible for 2 minutes. It can be beautiful for 5 minutes. And it can be extremely mentally strengthening to stay in that space for 10, even up to 20 minutes. So I offer you to find what speaks to you. And remember that strengthening exercises can come in a variety of ways. It's funny how something so still can actually be an incredible mindfulness tool as well as an incredible strengthening tool. The beauty of legs on the wall is that it does reset our system because it's having the blood flow work in opposition. So we see a lot of physical benefits that come from it, but we also see our sympathetic, our parasympathetic systems. We see the digestive system, nervous system. Lots of things are happening in this place and space. And because of that, I want to show you how to come out of it safely. So to do that, you guys are going to bend those knees into your chest and just give yourself a hug and don't move. And you can grab those hands underneath the hamstrings as best you can, or just let those legs fall there, and you'll just stay in this space for a few moments. Oftentimes we'll get a tingling sensation in our feet. Did you guys get some tingling? Yeah, we'll get some tingling sensation, so we just want to be mindful of that. And then we're going to shift over to a side body. Either side works. Maybe cradle the head with the arm like this, remember? Yeah, there you go. Comfy cast, I know. We don't have to, but we just stay in that space again. 3 to 5 breaths right here. And we're just recalibrating, rebalancing that blood flow, and then gradually coming up to a seated position. from there. And then going off, and standing with the different things of the day. So that is tool number 2 for bringing the intentional reflection into our lives. The beautiful thing about legs on the wall is it can be done first thing in the morning, during the middle of the day, or even in the evening time. It's calming and grounding and energizing, depending on how we need it to be. So the third tool for intention is in journaling. And this is, again, a mindful practice. It's a yoga off the mat practice, and it's something that can be applied at any age and stage. But Ammon takes chapter 26 and he has, a journaling experience essentially, where he talks in gratitude and he looks to identify times in his life where he has felt the Lord's hand and where he has seen that cause into the next thing, leading him exactly where he's at. And he talks deeply about the heavy and the hard, which is part of our progression, right? There's a lot that comes in it. So using some kind of a writing, notebook or journal, it can be really empowering and powerful to write seeing the Lord's hand. And you might have had some ideas or thoughts come after doing legs on the wall, and you just jot down whatever comes to mind. Another way that I have found helpful is in an intentional morning practice. So setting up a morning time and practice where I just write a box that says gratitude, and I write what I have been grateful for in the last 24 hours. And then I write a box that says See, S-E-E. And in that box, I write how I've seen the Lord's hand in the last 24 hours. And it's a short-term reflection. It's a short-term mindfulness approach because it brings the present into awareness of the everyday, sometimes that mundane, and seeing it happen. Interestingly, when I started this practice, it was really difficult to write anything. I wasn't seeing it clearly. Over time with practice, I began to see it. And just like what the brain does, when we focus on growth, the more that we allow our brain to focus on that intentionally, the more that it will bring it to our awareness throughout the day. And we'll say, oh, that's a moment where I see this, or this moment of stillness reminds me of whatever it is. So that's a beautiful tool to take in with creating this kind of our own version of what Ammon writes about in chapter 26. And I just want to finish this yoga with one last quote. And it's by Martin Luther. And he says, "The confidence that God is mindful of the individual is of tremendous value in dealing with the disease of fear, for it gives us a sense of worth, of belonging, and of at-homeness in the universe." And I am a believer that finding that home within each of us is our journey. And I hope that these 3 tools of yoga, more yoga off the mat than on, can be something to play around with this week. Any one of them in some simple way. So that's my mindful invitation for you, is to just pick one of these or all of them, or modify them in some way for you or your family, and just take yoga off the mat and see how it works. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.